According to many people, Trump is holding onto his base, and he largely is. But there are Trump voters who abandoned him already early in his presidency. Here's the story of one of them, printed in the British newspaper The Guardian. James Walker took a stand already in March 2017, so just 2 months into Trump's first term, that provoked an overwhelming response online and also within his family. Written by David Smith, published on August the 22nd, 2020. Regrets he's had a few, but then again, there's one he'd like to mention. He voted for Donald Trump in November 2016. That fateful decision, with the subsequent act of public repentance, rippled through his family and friendships, his dating life, his career, where he makes his home, and countless thousands of posts on social media. Walker's story is a parable of the times, a glimpse of how the Trump era has awakened ordinary citizens who might otherwise sit on the sidelines as presidents come and go, and how the internet has become a turbocharged amplifier of division and hatred, healing, and redemption. It was March 2017 when Trump, still in the foothills of his presidency, held a rally in Nashville, Tennessee. Back then, and still for at least several months afterwards, he continued to denounce Hillary Clinton as crooked Hillary, never mind the fact that Hillary had lost the election and was not planning to run again for president. As usual, there was a small group of protesters outside the venue, the Nashville Municipal Auditorium. Unmissable among them stood Walker, wearing beard, sunglasses, black North Face jacket, khaki trousers. Most strikingly, he wore a red "Make America Great Again" MAGA cap on his head and a sign in his hands that announced to the world, "I've made a huge mistake." It soon went viral on social media, featured on The Guardian and Reddit websites, and was cited by the comedian Bill Maher on his HBO show Real Time. Many wanted to know, why did he vote for Trump? Why did he change his mind? He grew up in a conservative family. In the US political context, increasingly conservative means a member of the Republican Party or a supporter anyway. Relatively few either social or economic conservatives are left, let alone moral ones, in the Democratic Party. Ironically, most of those who are left tend to be ethno-racial minorities members. So, for example, African Americans and Hispanic Americans. In Northern California, and spent 2 years in the military, but by 2016 had begun to question the direction of the Republican Party. Nevertheless, he plumped for Trump. I was mid-transition when that election came up, and I felt frustrated with both candidates that were put up and didn't know which way to go, and then immediately I felt like I had to make the wrong call. I had made the wrong call. He explained. Within a few months, I had become so frustrated that I felt it was necessary to stand up and do something. Walker, 35, did not own a MAGA hat, but ordered one when a random crazy idea took hold in his mind. People were crying, and it just felt like a really healing moment, which was not what I expected. It reinforced my hope that I could find a way to be an activist, even in my own kind of quirky way of standing there in a red hat and holding up a sign as a regretful Trump voter. That evening, he started getting text messages from friends and family members saying he was going viral on Twitter. The reaction among friends in the liberal bastion of East Nashville was mixed. I had a surprising amount, it should be number of friends on my side, but then there were those who just didn't understand why I would do something like that. To an extent, I didn't either. I just felt compelled because it seemed like such a critical moment that in any way I could, I needed to do something, and it seemed to work. Republicans aren't all hateful Trump supporters, that's certainly true. And even as I'm disappointed in many of them, I see a path to close the divide. But it's only through healing and communication, and both of those seem to be off the table right now. In a similar spirit, last week the Democratic National Convention featured Republicans including Colin Powell, the former Secretary of State, and before that a career soldier, including the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff during the Reagan and Bush presidencies. And he served actually as the first US Secretary of State or Foreign Minister during the second Bush administration, that of George W. Bush. However, he switched parties by voting for Barack Obama in 2008. Even when he was an active Republican, he was definitely a liberal and moderate Republican. And John Kasich, the ex-governor of Ohio, who, by the way, ran against Trump in the 2016 primaries. He was actually one of the last federal Republicans to run against Trump, as well as repentant Trump voters arguing it was time to put country before party. Groups such as the Lincoln Project and Republican voters against Trump have attacked what they frame as a cult of personality that threatens the fabric of American democracy. Well, one of the most bizarre examples of that was a statement made on the floor of the US House of Representatives just before the impeachment vote in December 2019 by a Republican congressman from Georgia, the state of Georgia, Barry Loudermilk, who claimed incredibly that supposedly Pontius Pilate afforded or gave more rights to Jesus Christ before the latter's crucifixion than the Democrats had given to Donald Trump before his impeachment. I mean, comparing Jesus Christ's sacrificial death for our sins on the cross to Donald Trump's well-deserved impeachment is just bizarre, borders even on the blasphemous. While the internet enabled Walker to get his message out, it also opened the floodgates to abuse, bullying, and trolling, including from liberals and Democrats who refused to forgive his vote. His journey to activism led him to quit his job as a wine broker in Nashville and move to Los Angeles, where he has found work in the film industry and hopes to become a documentary maker with an emphasis on social justice and socially conscious projects. This year, he joined Black Lives Matter marches in Los Angeles and posted pictures of them on social media. When I march at protests, I feel hopeful, but when I come home and turn on the news, I feel otherwise, Walker muses. It feels like a mix back and forth every day of optimism that change is around the corner and is accessible for us, and then feeling like there's too much toxicity, meaning poisonous atmosphere now. Until we can put aside those dividing issues and realize we are all Americans and demand change, until those walls break down, I just don't know how we are going to come together. And once again, we need to turn to God.